Into the Spider-Verse is coming and we're gonna get a crap ton of Spider-Man, but who are we most excited to see? Well, we're gonna tell you. What's up, my comic comrades? As most of you are aware, Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 is almost upon us, and we cannot be more excited. The first film, Into the Spider-Verse, is arguably the best Spider-Man movie ever made, live action or otherwise. And the sequel, Across the Spider-Verse Part 1, promises to give us even more versions of the wall crawler. So today we're going to talk about which Spider-Verse characters we are most excited to see on the big screen. First and foremost, obviously, I'm excited to see my Puerto Rican brother, Miles Morales, back on the big screen once again. Yes, I know he is mainly known as the Black Spider-Man, but he is just as much the Puerto Rican Spider-Man, being half Puerto Rican because of his mom. I mean, his last name is Morales. That's right, he actually took his mother's last name. In any case, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who was not a fan of Miles Morales, and that is because he is arguably the best Spider-Man out. Now, for me, Peter Parker is still number one, but damn, Miles Morales is a very close second. And that's simply because just like Peter Parker, Miles is so relatable. They somehow managed to basically redo the Peter Parker storyline in a different and cool enough way to make it fresh, but still familiar. And Miles has that edge to him that Peter doesn't, which gives him kind of like that little extra bit of cool factor. Not to mention, he's the embodiment of what Spider-Man's about, and that's that anyone can be Spider-Man. No matter where you're from, what your color is, how old you are, it's all about what's inside. Next up, we have another one of my favorites who I'm excited to see again, and that is Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider. This character was a massive success out the gate when she was first introduced in the comics, because Marvel did one of the smartest things ever, creating this character that is bringing back Gwen Stacy without really bringing back Gwen Stacy, because she's an alternate version of the character that is Spider-Man on this Earth. She's an alternate version of Spider-Woman on her Earth, because on her Earth, Peter Parker died and she got the spider powers. She's just a badass character, and it's really cool to see versions of Peter Parker interact with Gwen Stacy, his former love, who is now actually a spider hero as well. Not to mention, I love the relationship between Miles and Gwen and can't wait to see that develop more in this movie, as they will make an awesome couple. Keeping the obvious train rolling, we got Spider-Man, or Peter B. Parker, the sweatpants wearing version of Peter Parker that is absolutely hilarious and a mentor of Miles in Into the Spider-Verse. It was just awesome seeing this old Spider-Man who's become jaded as things didn't work out the way he wanted in life, splitting ways with Mary Jane, becoming down on his luck, and not really caring much about anything. That is before meeting Miles and becoming his mentor. And Miles also gets Peter back on track with his life, and it seems like he's back with MJ, and he's got a kid in this new movie, so things are looking up. But now let's talk about some of the newcomers in this film, with the first one being Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099. Yet another Hispanic Spider-Man, as he's Mexican. Spider-Man 2099 has always been one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man. He's essentially a future version of Spider-Man, the Batman Beyond for Spider-Man, if you will. This version of Spider-Man has organic webbing, talons, and an awesome costume. He's being voiced by Oscar Isaac, which I think is a fantastic choice. It's just really cool to see one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man get the spotlight, as he's going to be a main character in the film. It looks like he's originally going to be the antagonist, but ultimately will become a protagonist by the end to help Miles. Regardless, we can't wait to see this character portrayed for the first time in this movie. Okay, for the next Spider-Verse web-slinger we're stoked to see, we've got another fan favorite, and that is Hobby Brown, aka Spider-Punk. That's right, in his universe, instead of becoming the Prowler, Hobby became Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk is awesome because he's just a punk rock version of Spider-Man. In the comics, in true punk rock fashion, Spider-Punk and his spider army revolted against a corrupted Norman Osborn, who is president on this Earth, controlling his own version of the Venom symbiote. So Spider-Punk and his army eventually used guitars and punk rock to defeat Osborn and his Venom police. Spider-Punk honestly is just a cool looking character, as he's a punk rock Spider-Man. I'm curious to see how much screen time they give him in this movie. I hope he has a good amount and we see him smash some bad guys with his guitar or use 15,000 watts of punk rock. Next on the list, we have a lot of people's favorite version of Spider-Man, and that is Insomniac Spider-Man, or PS4 Spider-Man. Let's be honest, the PS4 Spider-Man game is one of the best superhero games ever made, and that's pretty much because it's basically Arkham City, but for Spider-Man. It's an open world Spider-Man game that allows you to just be Spider-Man. You feel like you are Spider-Man, and it's great. The gameplay is great and the story is great, so of course I'm sure a lot of you are excited to see this version of Spider-Man make at least a brief appearance in the film. I hope he has at least one standout scene, because he definitely deserves it. Moving along, we got an oldie but a goodie, and that is the 70s Japanese Spider-Man TV series Spider-Man. The thing that really sets Japanese Spider-Man over the top is his huge power Power Ranger style robot, Leoparded. Come on, you know the Japanese love their giant robots and mechs, so of course they had to give their version of Spider-Man one, and it's absolutely fantastic. Does it make sense and fit for Spider-Man? Not really, but we've all come to love it, and at the same time, the Japanese know giant robots make everything cooler, and God bless them for it. Because now, Japanese Spider-Man has become a cult classic, an iconic piece of Spider-Man's mythos, and a perfect alternate version of the character. So I just hope that with Japanese Spider-Man being in this film, we see his giant robot Leopard and wreck shop on some bad guys. I want it. Next up, we got a version of Spider-Man that only us 90s kids are going to be familiar with, but even still often gets forgotten, and that is Spider-Man Unlimited from the 90s Spider-Man Unlimited series. I'm going to be honest, the series was not the best, and because of that, it didn't last very long. But nonetheless, it's pulling on those nostalgia strings because even though it wasn't nearly comparable to Spider-Man the Animated Series or even Spectacular Spider-Man, which came after it, I still watched it and enjoyed it as a kid because it was pretty much Marvel's answer to Batman Beyond, but nowhere near as good. Nonetheless, this is just an awesome memory from childhood, so it's going to be fun to see this version of Spider-Man at least cameo in the movie. Another version of the character that's making a cameo is Bombastic Bagman. Now, this is a deep cut for us diehards who have been reading Spider-Man for years. You see, when Reed Richards was able to separate the Venom symbiote from Peter Parker, he was left without a costume, at which point the Human Torch is like, here's an extra Fantastic Four suit, also attaching a kick me sign to the back. But as we know, the Fantastic Four don't wear masks, so Peter had to make one, which he did by using a paper bag that he cut out holes in. So people who don't actually read the comics are not going to know what the hell is going on with this version of Spider-Man, but for us diehards, it's amazing. Another character I can't believe is going to be appearing in the film is Manga vs. Spider-Man. This is the version of Spider-Man as he would appear in manga from Marvel's early 2000s manga series. In this version, Peter Parker was the last ninja of the Spider Clan, and Venom is the one who's responsible for Uncle Ben's death, aka Peter's former sensei. I'm loving all these deep cuts. I just hope manga Spider-Man and several of the others have more than just a passing shot. The movie's also going to show us Earth 1982 Spider-Girl, which in this universe, Peter Parker ends up losing a leg in battle with the Green Goblin, forcing him to put down the web suit. At this point, he puts all of his effort into raising his daughter, May Parker, who eventually develops her own spider-like powers and takes on the mantle of Spider-Girl and ultimately Spider-Woman. We actually see May Parker as a baby in the trailer, so I wonder if we're going to see her adult version somewhere as well. Alright, I'm going to go through a few more, and the next one up is the Superior Spider-Man, Otto Octavius Spider-Man. I don't care what anyone says, this is one of the best versions of Spider-Man ever. In the comics, Otto had Peter's mind transferred into his dying body, and Otto had his mind transferred into Peter Parker's body, with Peter seemingly dying and Octavius now inside of Spider-Man's body, becoming the Superior Spider-Man. It's one of the best Spider-Man runs ever, yet at the time, people were up in arms about it, but as time went on, people were like, oh no, yeah, this is kind of awesome. And Otto was a Superior Spider-Man with his tech, genius, and ruthlessness. He was putting crime down for good. But he would go too far, and obviously by the end of his run, Peter Parker would come back and reclaim his body, but nonetheless, Superior Spider-Man was great, and I hope we see some cool interactions with him. Then after this, we have a version of Spider-Man who is easily in my top 5 favorite versions of the wall crawler, and that is the Scarlet Spider, specifically Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider with the blue hoodie. When I was younger, I mainly liked the Spider-Man at first because I just thought his costume was awesome, with the plain red suit and blue hoodie, sideways black spider, and gauntlets on his wrists, just epic. But the character itself is great too. Ben Reilly, a clone of Spider-Man turned hero, so cool. With that said, the Clone Saga is one of the most convoluted stories in all of Spider-Man's lore, but the one good thing we got out of it was Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly. And I swear, if he doesn't get solid screen time, I'll probably do nothing, but I'll be mad. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have a version of Spider-Man that's probably a lot of people's favorite version of the character. He's definitely up there for me, and that is Spectacular Spider-Man from the early to mid-2000s animated series. Stan Lee was even quoted saying this was his favorite Spider-Man TV show, and us fans also absolutely loved it. It was just fantastic. The only thing that rivals it is the 90s Spider-Man animated series, and while it was extremely short-lived, it wasn't because the show wasn't good or wasn't well received by fans. Even Stan Lee himself loved it. It was just that the show came out when Marvel was being acquired by Disney, so all the rights got messed up, and unfortunately, it never got a third season. Nonetheless, to see the Spectacular Spider-Man get redemption on the big screen is awesome. I just hope they get the original voice actor, Josh Keaton, to voice him. Can you imagine how much all of us would be geeking out? But there you have it, my comic comrades, the versions of Spider-Man we are most excited to see in Across the Spider-Verse. Let us know what version of Spider-Man you're most excited to see down in the comments. Other than that, we'll see you next time, or maybe at the movies. Who knows?